Good day, everyone. I'm one of the assigned reporters for Chapter 1. I'm Rasul Sulaiman and together with Alinur Makugar. Chapter 1 entitled Assessment as an Integral Part of Teaching. So here's our learning outcomes. First, um, the student, at the end of that chapter, the student should be able to differentiate among diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment, cite ways to do traditional and authentic assessment, distinguish between traditional and authentic assessment, norm reference and criterion reference assessment, contextualized and decontextualized assessment, explain marks of quality assessment, and discuss current trends and assessment. So, assessment as an integral part of teaching. We as a students, we've been through a lot of assessments, and if we have a choice, we would not subject ourselves in assessment process, right? So there is one popular bargain like no more test, or maybe goes this way like, please ma'am sir give a test which we can answer even without studying. So this is just a proof that several students have a negative attitude towards assessment. So in this chapter, we will dwell on assessment as an integral part of teaching, learning, and hopefully it will change our view and attitude of assessment towards these assessments. So, now let's talk about the assessment in the context teaching learning. Um, in the context of teaching learning, we can talk about this diagnostic, formative, and summative assessment. So first, we have the diagnostic assessment. So this is a form of pre-assessment that allows teachers to determine the student's individual prior knowledge, including misconception before instruction. So in this, it is about measuring the knowledge knew by the students, or measuring their prior knowledge. And for the teacher, it can be a basis um, or guide kung ano dapat ang ituturo sa mga estudyante. Usually, the teachers gives an pre-test to measure the prior knowledge of the students and to be able to know kung saang area or parts ng topic ang i-nurture ng teacher, kung saang part niya tutulungan yung mga estudyante nila. Next, we have the formative assessment. So, formative assessment, it takes place during the instruction to provide teachers with information regarding how learning objectives of a given learning activity are being met. So it takes place during the discussion of the teachers. In formative assessment, teacher monitoring the learning of the students. Usually, ang ginagawa ng teacher while they are discussing the topic, they will ask the students if they understood the discussion, and probably ang sagot ng estudyante madalas narinig natin is yes ma'am or yes sir. But in formative assessment, the teacher need to make sure, or they really need to make sure that the students master the topic before proceeding to another discussion. And formative assessment also referred to assessment for learning in um, in this process of instruction or discussion. The teacher checks on students' learning, and then if the students didn't get the topic or the discussion, the teacher reteaches or discuss again the topic to make sure that the students able to understand and master the topic. Okay, so let's proceed to the summative assessment, used to evaluate students' learning at the end of defined instructional period. So summative assessment, in this part of assessment, the teacher assess the learning of the students after the discussion or at the end of the topic or the course. Um, Dito na pumapasok yung quarterly exam, quizzes, assignments, recitation, and etc. So, that's the end of the topic or course. Nagkakaroon ng summative assessments. And summative assessments are done through paper and pencil test or non-paper and pencil test. The quarterly exam, quizzes, yan, nandiyan na yan, recitation, and etc. And this become the basis of the teacher kung paano nila bibigyan ng grades yung mga estudyante nila. So, yun, so ang formative assessment is referred also to assessment for learning. So it's happen during the discussion, and summative assessment is referred to assessment of learning. So it will happen at the end of the discussion or the end of the topic, end of the course. Okay. So meron din tayong tinatawag na traditional and authentic assessment. So traditional and authentic assessment. So traditional, nandyan yung paper and pencil test. So meron tayong tinatawag na selected response type and constructed response type. So sa selected response type is pasok dyan yung alternative response. Nandyan yung true or false, yes or no, X or check. So yan, selected response. So may pinagpipilian silang sagot yung mga estudyante. Multiple choice, of course, yung A, B, C, D. And then matching type. So may pinagpipilian din siya. Selected response type. Sa constructed response type naman, the student are tasked to construct an answer. Nandiyan yung short answer, defining, halimbawa is define this one, essay, of course, meron tayong short essay, long essay, so meron tayong problem solving. So, sa authentic assessment naman, the term authentic was coined by Grant Wiggins 1993, a leading proponent of reform and testing. So, this assessment requires students' performance. That is why likewise called performance assessment. So, itong authentic assessment is tinatawag din siyang performance assessment. So, this is also known as non-traditional assessment and alternative assessment. So, kilala din itong authentic assessment sa non-traditional assessment or alternative assessment. So, pag sinabi natin alternative assessment is that students can showcase their talent and skills. They can perform actually, unlike in traditional assessment, is ginagawa lang dyan yung selected response type and constructed response type, so more on writing. So here in authentic assessment, the students showcasing their talents and skills. They can dance, song, sing, rather, and etc. Just to showcase their talents. And then let's proceed to norm and criterion reference assessment. So in criterion reference assessment, comparing students' performance against a criterion of success, which is the predetermined standard. So sa criterion reference assessment, here in this assessment, the teacher will set a standard that students should reach. The reach the performance of the students will be compared to the um, standard set by the teacher. So this is after use as a uh, use as a cut score to place students and categories such as basic, proficient, or advanced. So dito as a students, you can evaluate your performance easily kung failed or passed yung grades based on the criteria set by the teacher. For example, teacher gives an spelling bee or spelling quiz, and the standard set by the teacher is the student should get at least 18 correct spelling. So student A got 20, a perfect score, and student B got 18, and then student C got 10. So it is obvious that only students A and B pass the standard stated or set by the teacher. Next is the norm um, reference assessment. So comparing students' performance with the performance of other students, not against the predetermined standards. So kabaliktaran naman siya ng criterion reference assessment. So here in norm reference assessment, teachers comparing the performance of the students to the norm group of students. So this is not against the predetermined set by the teacher, unlike sa criterion reference system. So this is also known as percentile ranking and used as a national college entrance examination from 1973 to 1994. So matagal na ito siyang ginagamit. Here for example, students get 99 percentile rank means that the students is belong to upper 1% and surpass the 99% of the students or the examinees. So it is more comparing students' performance to a group of students. So meaning the difference between norm reference and criterion reference is that the norm reference is the comparison of the student's score against other students' score, while the criterion is comparing or the comparison of students' performance score with established criterion of success. So that's all. So the contextualized and the contextualized assessment will be discussed by Adinor Matubay.
Contextualized and the contextualized assessment, the focus of the student's construction and functioning knowledge, and the student performing and their application of knowledge and skills in the real world context and discipline area. So meaning, so the contextualized assessment, so ang focus lang niya is yung functioning knowledge. Kung baga, as a future educator, so di ba, nag-aaral tayo kasi kinukuha lang natin yung mga knowledge na magfa-function lang in the future. So, yun na yun. So, magagamit natin yun siya pag naging successful educator someday. Then, according kay Grothy 1994 in Lyon and Ilias 1998, they reflect real life outside of the classroom tasks and require student to utilize higher order thinking skills to fulfill and demand duties and tasks. So, according sa kanila is yung knowledge na naging natin is magre-reflect siya in the real life. So, hindi lang magagamit natin siya in the real life, pwede rin nagagamit natin siya in the outside of the classroom. So, pwede natin magamit yung naging natin na knowledge. Then, the contextualized, on the other hand, the contextualized assessment which include written exam suitable for assessing declarative knowledge and do not necessarily have direct connection to the real life context according kay Banks 2011. So dito naman sa decontextualized is more on memorization. Then including this is written exam suitable for assessing declarative knowledge. Kumbaga di ba? So ang example ng decontextualized assessment is summative assessment including standardized test, midterm examination, final exam or final project. Then both contextualized and decontextualized learning and assessment have the rule and evaluating learning outcomes. So tama, merong rules and also evaluating of learning outcomes between the two, the contextualized and the contextualized assessment. Then, according naman kay Vings and Tang, 2011, contextualized assessment is both declarative knowledge in the real life application that knowledge must be assessed appropriately, a common mistakes so necessarily have lead, and declarative knowledge do not functional knowledge and emerges from it. And then establish high quality assessment. Quality assessment is accordance with the contemporary view of active learning and motivation. This means that learners discover construction, meaning, seek, plan, and work to realize their goal, association, and link of new information. So, nag-aaral tayo kasi meron tayong gustong malaman or kulang pa yung kaalaman natin na kailangan natin ma-discover. And also, and work of realize their goal. So, para ma-realize natin na nag-aaral tayo kasi may goal tayo. And also, nag-link yung information natin. Nadadagdagan yung kaalaman natin. And also, namomotivate tayo na mag-aaral tayo kasi may gusto tayong marating or may goal tayo. Then, with existing knowledge in meaningful ways, they critically and creativity develop self-monitoring skills, have positive expectation for learning and confidence, and their skills are enthusiastically and internally motivated to learn, apply what they lead to real-world situation, and communicate effectively according kay Sandstrom 2009. And then number 2, assessment is quality is valid. Assessment is valid, measure what is this supposed to measure, and how will the learning outcomes have been attained. So, all of the student is, lahat naman tayo is, yung mga knowledge natin is valid. So, nami-measure lang talaga or nasusukat lang yung kaalaman ng isang bata kasi meron tayong fast learner and slow learner. Then, yung mga slow learner is pag sa isang classroom is gawin lang nila yung na mag-aral sila or kasi mga slow learners na so mag-advanced study sila para mag-gain nila kung ano yung gusto or yung gustong iparating doon sa isang topic. Then assessment is highly quality is reliable. Assessment is reliable when the test procedure assisted scores. Explanatory naman itong assessment is reliable. And then assessment is high quality is fair. It is the fair of assessing what is supposed to be assessed as a state of learning outcome is expected to happen. And this is the principle of constructive alignment and action. Obviously, assessing learning is something they have not been taught and unfair. So dito, as a teacher, so di ba, dapat maging fair tayo. Hindi lamang magfo-focus lang tayo doon sa mga fast learner kasi doon tayo kasi may doon yung mga fast learner. So mali, dapat maging fair yung pagtuturo ng isang teacher. Yun yung sa assessment is high quality is fair. Then, current trends and assessment. Here is the current trends assessment cited by Sandstrom 2009. Using at least some performance-based assessment. This meaning that is the use of subjective tests such as alternative response, multiple choice, matching types, and no longer adequate. According to Carlo Sander, president of the Association of American College and University, employers or say our words is not a multiple choice and don't send us graduates wise only know how to solve a multiple choice problem. Instead, Sanchez continues employer are asked for what educator call a modern regular educational more big picture, think but with a real world application. So this does not mean that we have a side of use of objective test and assessment. At all, objective test and traditional assessment complement performance-based assessment but use of objective alone and one stop. Examining higher level cognitive skills and emphasizing integrated rather than isolated skills. These higher level cognitive skills including problem solving, critical thinking, decision making, drawing of interference, strategic thinking. That is why it is not enough to make a use of objective test and a sample recall. As simple as that is, gumagawa tayo ng para ma-develop yung cognitive skills natin including problem solving, about the topic, critical thinking, decision making, drawing and interference, and etc. And then number 3, using of multiple assessment method to assess students' current trains in using multiple method. From a multiple choice to essay, an interview, a project, a portfolio, a self-evaluation. Again, it is emphasized that we have not to do away with objective test that measure sample recall. This is the required sample recall complement authentic assessment tools. So using of multiple assessment method. So from multiple choice is ginagawa natin siya into essay, interview, a project, and also a portfolio and self-evaluation. So emphasize our knowledge. And then the number 4 is having a high performance standard including world-class standard and referring assessment result. Let us the standard high research says one level of performance is lower than the level of aspiration is. Therefore, sound of challenge students in high performance students. So dito, nagkakaroon ng high performance ang bata pag sila ay nag-aaral lang mabuti. Di ba? So, pag bumigay ka ng isang pagtatasa or isang performance or any kind of performance is, di ba, nakakasagot sila and kahit ilang ulit mo pa yan sila bigyan ng assessment or sasagutan is makakasagot sila. Yun yung sa having a high performance standard. Then involving student in all aspect assessment. Involving student in all aspect assessment is work of the students are involved from the setting of expected targets to be determined their construction of checking of their progress in the course of teaching learning process, finally determine the extent of they can realize that expected target, and making standard criteria public rather than the private and creative according kay Sanstruck 2009 and Mac Ting 2030 says that evaluation criteria such as rubric are present as to explain at beginning module of the excellent of the criteria showing na provide class a picture of the performance they be eliminated student in their upcoming aptitude toward the assessment. So dito, so ang example dito is, di ba, pag gagawa tayo or magpapa-performance, so di ba, bibigay tayo ng rubrics, yung mga susundin nila, or kung paano ka mag-grade, kung dito naman sa halimbawa is sa spoken poetry, sasabihin mo doon kung paano, may mga rubrics kang sasabihin doon. And then the last one is using computer as part of assessment with computer bank, can be created, which makes it possible for its students to be presented with different questions. Both are equivalent standard with computerized market immediate feedback may have with the student recording. Assessment result they are critical analysis are likewise facilitated with the computer.